Good morning. I want to welcome you to the ad hoc committee on the Olympics this morning. We have a quorum. I'm joined by Mr. Price, Krokorian, O'Farrell, Blumenfield, and Mr. Cedillo. Madam Clerk, what's on our agenda for today?
There is one item on the agenda. It's a report from the City Administrative Officer and the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to an update on key issues regarding the city's proposed bid for the 2024 Summer Olympics, and a presentation by LA24 concerning the Olympic venue and the Olympic Village and venue plan.
Okay, thank you very much. I have two public comment cards, so why don't I call forward it could be a Vahid, Corsan, and Dan. Please come forward. So item one.
Item one, okay. 2 minutes, is that? Okay.
Okay.
Council members, I lived in Boston, Massachusetts for about 10 years, and they said no to the Olympics. I need a clock here, please. We're
having technical difficulties,
okay.
So I'll cut you off.
All right. I'm sure you will. Boston said no to the Olympic Games. Boston is a much better prepared city for the Olympics than Los Angeles. They have full stadiums and arenas at Boston University, Boston College, Northeastern, Harvard, UMass, and that's just in the city of Los Angeles. They have far more venues and housing units than LA does. They have a full, modernized subway system. They have a brand new highway system. They have a brand new tunnel to Logan Airport. And they said no to the Olympics. Paris is going to get the Olympics. It's going to be the 100th and 124th anniversary of the Olympics there. They're going to get it. The problem is Los Angeles keeps going for these glittery items while the city's suffering with crime, traffic, shelters for people, shelters for animal. And when you first announced this, all of you, how many of you got up at city council and gave out these stupid mixed metaphors to get on the local news about this, and it's going to be, we're going for the gold, and those stupid things while you go for the glittery instead of serving the people of Los Angeles. And it's more about self-aggrandizement of you because the cost is unfeasible. That's why Boston dropped it. They're better prepared, and LA is not. And let me see, what else? Yeah, they're a better prepared city. Los Angeles is not. And I think this idea is as cold and dead as Gladys Jean Wesson. That's my free speech.
Okay, Mr. Corsan.
Just to be clear, I'm Mr. Corsan, not him.
Thank you. I want to make that clear.
My name is Vahid Corsan. I'm a business owner in the San Fernando Valley. I am a resident of Encino. I'm on the board of several business organizations as well as other community organizations, including the Encino Chamber of Commerce. Last year, our board passed a letter in support of bringing the Olympics to Los Angeles and bringing the Olympics to Encino. We feel it's great for the business community, especially small businesses in the San Fernando Valley. I'm also a board member of the Metro San Fernando Valley Service Council. Although I'm not here to speak on behalf of them, I will say that hearing the proposals of what's down the line for transportation, not to engage the previous speaker, but there are some really exciting changes coming to our transit system in the next few years, which will probably be expedited for the Olympics. So I think LA and the San Fernando Valley are a perfect venue for the Olympics and will mean a lot to small businesses. The only thing I would ask is that the council kind of direct LA24 and whatever Olympic committees exist in Los Angeles to work with the small business organizations to find ways to have this benefit small businesses, especially in Encino, the San Fernando Valley, and other areas that are hosting the Olympics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Erica, these are additional cards. So if I could have John Nabor please come forward. Yeah, no kidding. Welcome.
Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know, I'm John Nabor. I was a swimmer in the 1976 Olympic Games. I earned 4 gold and a silver medal. I later became a broadcaster for the sport of swimming and then was elected as president of the U.S. Olympic Alumni Association. And our motto is, you're never a former Olympian. As Sharon knows, you're not a former Trojan either. And so I'm pleased to speak on behalf of and in support of the Los Angeles bid for the 2024 Olympic Games. Many people will come before you and talk about the financial implications of the Games. I'm not here to speak about that at all. I'm here to speak about the simple truth that every Olympian I've ever met was inspired to chase the Olympic dream when they actually met another Olympian. The ordinariness of the Olympic athletes, moms and dads who raise their kids to chase dreams, who eventually become one of the top 3 in their country or one of the top 2 in the planet at a particular skill. It all begins, that dream begins when you get to look at and see an individual who puts their pants on one leg at a time, who brushes their teeth and lives in this community. When the Olympics came to Los Angeles in 1932 and again in 1984, the people of Southern California got to glimpse at the ordinariness, the humanness of these individuals who went on to accomplish remarkable things. The outcome of the 1984 Games, of course, as you know, was the LA 84 Foundation, which funded sports programs in our community, and it created the likes of Venus and Serena Williams, who now recently said that if their house caught fire, they wouldn't grab their Wimbledon trophy or their French Open trophy, they'd grab their Olympic medals. The Olympic movement is a passion inside our hearts that is born by seeing Olympians. And if the Los Angeles area hosts the 2024 Olympic Games, all of our children in all of Southern California will get much increased opportunities to shake hands with, to meet at a movie theater or a shopping center line, individuals who are one of the top performers in their skill in the planet. And this will enhance the dreams of our community and make our citizens, our young boys and girls, much better, capable, and much more ambitious dreamers in our community. The Olympic Games will benefit the city of Los Angeles and all of Southern California. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to deal with USC and UCLA. So I'm going to call up David Galvez and then Mark from USC, and then Marco Perez from UCLA.
Good morning. I don't know how anybody can follow one of the greatest Olympians of all time, but I'll try to give it a shot. My name is David Galvez, here representing USC to voice our strong support for LA 24's efforts and to publicly voice our willingness and enthusiasm to continue working with all the great partners here this morning. At USC, we take great pride in our Olympic heritage and our role as a civic leader that has been a part of South LA and the city of Los Angeles for over 135 years. We are more than willing to continue working with you all and making sure that our facilities are up to par for the Olympics. As many of you know, we're in the process of redeveloping the University Village, which will be done by 2017, which will house many of the foreign media. We're also in the process of renovating the Coliseum, which is a process that we're undertaking. And finally, as many of you know, we're very proud of the work at the Galen Center. We hosted a very exciting sold-out basketball game yesterday, so we're excited that will be a part of the process. As an institution that understands the unique impact that the Olympics can have, again, we just want to reiterate that we are very proud to be here. We're a willing partner, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all and making this happen. Thank you so much.
Hey, David, did you used to work in the legislature?
I had the great fortune of working in the legislature.
And did you work for anyone that I might know?
I had the great fortune of working for one of the greatest Bruins in public policy. Gil
And who
Cedillo.
might? Oh, Mr. Cedillo. Yes, Mr. Kokori.
As long as we're asking questions of the speaker, you mentioned a basketball game last night.
Yes.
I'm not up on the news. What happened?
Oh, I try to be impartial, but let's just say we had a very good showing by the University of Southern California
I
last
see.
night.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
And we hope you all come to future games. Thank you.
Okay, good to see you again. Okay. I don't know how you're going to respond to that, Marco, but I know you got it in you.
Thank you, President Wesson and City Council members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity on behalf of UCLA. I am very pleased and honored that the LA 2024 committee has selected UCLA as the site of the Olympic Village for the Summer Games of the 33rd Olympiad. UCLA's top-flight residential dining and athletic facilities will allow Olympians to fully prepare for competition and rest between events, as well as enjoy the company of their peers and from other nations. You may recall that UCLA successfully served as the Olympic Village during the 1984 Summer Games here in LA. And for a few truly wonderful weeks last summer, athletes from around the world called our campus home during the 2015 Special Olympics World Games. UCLA and the Olympics movement share the same ideals of athletic excellence and competition, as well as the conviction that international events such as these build bridges of understanding and friendship between nations and peoples. All of us at UCLA look forward to working closely with our partners at LA 2024 to bring the 2024 Summer Games back to the U.S. and to UCLA. And go Team USA.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment on this item. So I want to call, I guess we should start with our city folk. Why don't you come forward and give us a presentation on where we are and your thoughts?
Good morning.
Morning.
Sharon So with the CLA's office, and with me are Miguel Santana, CAO, and James Clark, City Attorney's Office. Good morning. So this item before you is an update on the efforts to bring the 2024 Olympics to Los Angeles, as well as a presentation by LA 24 on the upcoming Stage 1 submittal, which will be due in February 17. Since last month's actions by the council, the MOU that was approved by this council has been executed. LA 24 did announce the selection of UCLA as the Olympic Village and USC as the Media Village. The IOC president actually visited the city of Los Angeles, and our offices still continue to work with LA 24 on working toward protecting the city's interests as we proceed in this process. Mr. Sykes, LA 24 CEO, is here with us today. He will discuss the Olympic Village. And with regard to the guarantees that will be submitted as part of Stage 1 submittal, we have Mr. Clark who can answer any questions, but they have determined that of the guarantees that require submittal with Stage 1, that they do not require the express authorization of the City Council, inasmuch as these guarantees would only be effective if the city signs on to the host city contract and is accepted as the city for the 2024 Olympics. Our report also addresses a number of other issues related to insurance and risk management and security and event venues. And with regard to next steps, our offices will continue to review budget information as we develop this process, and we will continue to work with LA 24 in a very collaborative fashion as we proceed to this Stage 2 submittal, and we will continue to update the ad hoc committee and council on progress. And so with that, if it is a desire of the committee to hear the presentation by Mr. Sykes, and after his presentation, if it is acceptable to you, we would recommend that you adopt the CAO and CLA report before you.
Okay, Gene, why don't you come forward? Unless Big Jim or Miguel, did you want to say anything before Gene starts?
Sharon did a great job. No, I think Sharon summarized it.
Good morning and good to see you.
Good morning. It's nice to see all of you as well. I appreciate the chance to have a chance to talk to you, make a presentation really, and describe where we are with our efforts to pursue the Olympics in 2024. I'm Gene Sykes, and I've had the chance to meet all of the members of the ad hoc committee in meetings that we've had individually in your offices. I've also had the opportunity, together with other members of our LA24 staff to meet with several other members of the City Council, and we expect and will have scheduled meetings with all of the members of the City Council within the next several weeks. So, first of all, I'm the president and CEO of LA 2024, what we call LA 24, and I've been in that position now for a little more than 3 months. So at this stage, I feel that I understand what we're up to and what our task is and our objectives, so I can speak with, I think, quite a lot of sort of comprehensive insight into all of the issues that we could discuss here. One thing I'd like to do first is to tell you the strategy of our bid has been informed by the direction that we've heard from the International Olympic Committee, in particular their Olympic Agenda 2020, which embraces credibility and sustainability and legacy as the principal objectives of how a host candidate city should think about the bid for the Olympics. So with that in mind, one of the first things we did was to think about enlisting the very important partners that we have here in Los Angeles, first being the city of Los Angeles itself, which is why the interaction we've had with all aspects, all agencies of the city, the mayor's office, obviously, and the CLA, the CAO, the city attorney's office, has been very helpful to us. In addition, of course, we've had the great partnerships with USC and UCLA, as well as with the commercial partners, Anschutz Entertainment Group, for example, who will act as a venue host to the degree that we win the Olympic Games. We've also had offers of partnership from all sorts of other institutions of the city. We hosted a dinner for Thomas Bach, the president of the IOC, on Monday night at the Getty Museum. And the Getty is also one of our great partners. And when we think about the richness we have in Southern California and in Los Angeles, it's because we have so many great institutions that have world-class assets, people, attributes that we want to present to the world. So it's quite exciting for us. As you know, we made a significant announcement by announcing that the Olympic Village, what we call the Olympic Athletes Village, will be at UCLA. I'll be happy to discuss that in the Q&A, and we've had quite a bit of attention paid to that. That is an anchor of our entire bid approach. And I will say that that was driven by a significant amount of analysis that we did, that our consultants did, and finally that we asked a number of athletes to participate in, not just UCLA athletes, but Olympic athletes of every nature. And when the athletes had a chance to really see all of the aspects of the UCLA facilities, including all of their athletic facilities, the dining, etc., they came to the conclusion this is the best athletes village they could imagine, and it would be difficult to build a new Olympic village that would equal the Olympic village we already have. I think that impression was also made to Thomas Bach and his senior staff when they were here earlier this week. So now our next task, once we get our first deliverable to Lausanne, is to really focus on how do we convince the voting members of the IOC that Los Angeles not only is very well equipped to be the host of the 2024 Games, but that it's good for the Olympic movement and better for the Olympic movement than any other alternative they have. That's our job, and we know we'll enlist the support of our partners in that task. As has been described, we have 3 stages of deliverable information documentation, the first of which is due in just more than 10 days in Lausanne, the second, which is due in October, and the third, approximately a year from now. When the IOC has all of that information in hand, they will then create an evaluation commission to visit each of the candidate cities. I'll remind you, we are always first. We drew lots, and so Los Angeles, for every meeting, every workshop, every visit goes first, and the other cities follow, which means sometime next spring, the evaluation commission will come to Los Angeles and will be their hosts for a little more than a week, and they'll do quite a bit of examination themselves of every aspect of our proposal. They'll publish a report by the early part of the summer of 2017, and then the vote, of course, takes place in Lima in September of 2017. To discuss a bit of what's in the deliverable, just to remind you, the foundation of what we're trying to do rests upon community support. We've made references several times to the fact that the one poll that we have suggests that there's over 80% public support in Los Angeles for the Olympics. And we, of course, think the Olympics is in our DNA, having been the host for the 32 and 84 games. But we don't rest on that. It was quite clear in the conversations with President Bach and his staff. They're happy we've hosted the games, and they're delighted that we have the capacity to host the games again. But the question they have for us is, tell us why we should come to your city, and what is it that you'll do that nobody else can do? And what we're very committed to persuade them is that Southern California, and Los Angeles in particular, are the home of innovation, creativity, and useful technology. And in every way that you can imagine, we can remake the experience of the Olympic Games to make it richer and more meaningful for a wide variety of people. This allows everyone to experience the Olympic Games and for it to be something which is a fantastic experience for all people, regardless of where they live in the world, regardless of their wealth or lack of wealth, and we're very committed to this. And our clarification of how we're going to do this is what the next year is really about from our standpoint. We'll look forward to doing that and then describing it to you, and frankly, we'd love to have your input as well. As you know, LA is Olympics ready. That message was delivered loud and clear earlier this week. Our village and venues are all built, and therefore we have no risk from a financial standpoint. And I gave you my personal commitment. My attachment to this is designed to demonstrate that fiscal discipline is at the heart of how we're going to carry this on, and that we do not intend to take financial risk or put the city in any position of financial risk. It's meaningful that we're having this meeting in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up myself in the San Fernando Valley. My mother lives in the Valley. And for this Olympics, we actually have a significant number of events in the Valley. We have sporting events in the Sepulveda Dam Basin. And of course, Universal City will be the site of our International Broadcast Center and the Press Center as well, which will be significant facilities. So the Valley will be a full and active participant. And to the gentleman's comments earlier, I will also tell you that we're quite excited to work with community groups in the Valley and all other parts of the city to enlist their support and involvement in what we do. I'm impressed by the fact that I've heard stories of 30 or 40,000 volunteers for the 84 games and 100,000 volunteers for the London games. And I can only imagine the number of people who want to volunteer and be participants in the LA 2024 Olympic Games if we win, which is a very, very exciting prospect. I will tell you we're committed to building on the legacy of LA 84. The LA 84 Foundation is one aspect of that legacy, but the pride the city has in the Olympics is a much bigger legacy. And there is a very, very big opportunity for us to the degree that we embrace that. So with those introductory comments, I'm happy to answer any questions you have or discuss any aspect of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Well, anyway, thank you. It was a great presentation. But let me just start a conversation where it relates to one of our biggest concerns as a council and as a committee, of course, is cost. And one of the issues that I know we've discussed has been the Olympic Village. And we've had estimates on that, the cost being as high as $2 billion to possibly $1 billion. So with the selection of UCLA and the assistance of USC, does that, what effect does that have on this 1.5 or $2 billion or $1 billion figure? Let's talk about that just for a minute.
So the opportunity and the challenge of building a brand new Olympic Village, accommodating 16,500 athletes, trainers, and people associated with teams, making it something that addresses the Olympic demands or requests, that there be fields and athletic facilities and very substantial dining facilities, all available, all staffed, in a position to accommodate this very large population of Olympians during the Olympic Games is a significant challenge for a number of reasons. It has to be sizable, it has to be secure, it has to be ready, and it has to be staffed by professionals. As we did our analysis, we started by saying, are there sites in Southern California that can accommodate a village of that size and caliber? And we started with, frankly, over 24 sites, and we were assisted by AECOM, which is a very substantial Los Angeles-based engineering and consulting contracting company. They have deep Olympic experience, and Bill Hanway, the president of their global sports business, who's quite familiar with having been the event master planning consultant for the London Games and for the Rio Games, helped us from the beginning. As we evaluated these more than 24 sites and looked at whether the sites were possible sites, whether they could accommodate this size village, and thought through how are those sites owned, where are they, what are the issues in terms of access. UCLA was also one of the sites, as was USC. And when we visited both universities, we realized these two sites were, frankly, much better than anything we could design anew. The cost of designing something new, building something new, is calculable, but we never went to the point of precisely calculating it. But to your point, it would easily be in the billions of dollars. And there would be a tremendous amount of financial risk in that capital investment. By choosing UCLA and USC as partners, we have taken that entire risk off the table. There is no capital investment. And in fact, the operating risk is also lower, and that's an important point that I want to underscore. Every Olympic Games, except for Los Angeles in 1984, that has had to construct a new village has also had to hire temporary people, train them, pay them, and then let them go away. And in our case, we're actually having an Olympic Village at a place where UCLA already operates, feeds, services, trains, and deals with a tremendous number of young people who are there. These people are professionals. They operate in a way that is highly reliable. And the cost of doing that will be much less for us than in any temporary facility.
So let me ask this. When we had our initial conversations, there were estimates or guesstimates that we could profit from a 2024 Olympic Games here in Los Angeles. And that guesstimation was based on the fact that we were going to probably create an Olympic Village scenario. So do those projections increase?
Well, the original budget, which was submitted in August of last year, anticipated that there would be a capital budget above and beyond the Games budget. So I want to be clear, these were two distinct things. But the Games budget itself assumed that we would have to operate in a sort of temporary Olympic Village that would then be transitioned to housing and market-based activities of some sort. The cost of operating at UCLA will be less in any case, which, to your point, makes it much more practical that we'll have a surplus. While we have not prepared a detailed budget at this point, and we expect to be working on that in the next phase, I'm quite confident that our budget will show that we intend to produce a surplus and that we'll be able to do so.
And I don't think anyone could question it. Would appear that we're in a better position to achieve the surplus than we might have been 3 months, 4 months ago when we began this conversation.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. Now I'd like to, Mr. Price.
President, thank you for the report and for the work that's being done by the committee and by our staff on this. You mentioned initially, I thought the report was that the SC was going to be the site of the media village. I guess that's shifting now to Universal. So what is the exact role going to be at SC? Are there going to be two villages, two athletic villages, or what's the deal?
No, I'm sorry. I probably wasn't quite clear. Universal City will be where the International Broadcast Center and the main press center would be. That's a working facility, not accommodations. The media village will be at USC. And one of the reasons they have extraordinary facilities as well, and their university village is really a first-class place. Media want to stay close to where the events are. And as you know, USC is in the center of the greatest sort of cluster of events that we have planned. But in the studio, all of the broadcasters operate. If you think about watching the NBC feed, you see Bob Costas in the studio. That's in the International Broadcast Center. That's a big box with studios that all of the broadcasters operate with themselves. When they send teams of, if you will, reporters or people who are in the events out there, they can live in the media village and then get right to the venues. But all of the studio work will be conducted at Universal City.
Members? Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to thank John Nabor for coming to see us and testify today. You are a hero of mine, for sure, from the '76 Olympics. I remember watching it all on television. And I also want to thank Bill and Brent for coming to explain in great detail the process of elimination that led to the selection of USC and UCLA. I think that it gives me a greater sense of confidence in terms of your approach in getting to, I think, what is the perfect choice. I think it's just the perfect outcome for the selection of the two villages. And it's my understanding that there are up to 5,000 additional units already entitled at UCLA for dormitories. And it's also my understanding that we need up to 2,000 additional beds to, fill the gap in leading up to 2024. Is that accurate?
It's close. There are roughly 14,000 beds in a configuration that would satisfy our needs, which is a little different than the way they're used by UCLA today. We therefore would need 2,500 additional beds by 2024, and that is within the plans that UCLA already has.
And that's my understanding as well, which also is a great, strong point, I think, that helps, validate that site, the selection of UCLA as the site for the Olympic and the athletes and coaches village. So I think that's very well done. I love that you said fiscal discipline is at the heart of sort of more or less your approach, LA 2024, because I also think that's a value that we have really put forward on this council and this committee. And, we sort of take a page from the previous playbook in Los Angeles in 32 and 84. And 84 is arguably, maybe inarguably, the Olympics that saved the movement. And I think that we can kind of return to a really great place that I think we need to get to in terms of the Olympics in general by some of the recent examples of the cost overruns and all that have really harmed the economies in certain cities that have hosted the Olympics. I'm energized by the aspirational aspect of hosting the Olympics in 2024, that we can play a role in really rekindling what the Olympic spirit really is all about. So I think from an economic and financial standpoint, LA 2024 is a great approach and a great choice. And which kind of leads me into the next piece, and I know that while we're approving just the deadline leading up to February 17th, I think we're in really good shape there. Just looking ahead to the next deadline, the Stage 2 candidature process. And one thing that we absolutely have to land on is our commitment to signing the host city contract without reserve or amendment, which in accordance with our direction, which is great, expecting at least some of these guarantees will be subject to the express authorization of the City Council and Mayor. Perhaps, Sharon, you could, or Miguel, talk about what the sum means, some of these guarantees.
Should we have Jim really answer that?
Jim?
Maybe we can defer to Jim.
Okay, sure.
I'm rarely deferred to, so thank you, and with good reason. The three guarantees we've signed so far basically are all guarantees which are subject to a condition precedent, which is legal jargon for saying before the guarantees are effective, the City Council, any guarantees that involve any financial commitment by the City Council has to act and approve them. So they're guarantees to take part in and support the Olympic movement, to cooperate, to, if the host city agreement is executed, to perform it accurately. None of those really require the city to do anything that is of any financial nature. No financial commitment is made as yet. But you're right, Mr. O'Farrell. At the next stage, the host city agreement will have to be signed. Dan Kreinberg from our office, who is here, has been negotiating with Brian Nelson, who's the general counsel of LA24, who's also here, diligently. And so we are heavily involved, along with the CAO and CLA's offices, in doing that. But it's a work in progress now. But we have not committed the city to anything as of now.
And that next phase, it gets to the heart of the whole sort of responsibility for any cost overruns piece that we're all focused on. Right?
That will be addressed there. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, and those conversations will be forthcoming probably at this committee and other conversations as we move this process along. Right, okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I think this is a huge step in the right direction, and I'm very excited about this election. Congratulations, and also, again, to commend you on your diligence and your methodology for arriving at this conclusion for the Olympic Village sites. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm working my way around this semi-horseshoe here. Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. O'Farrell hit most of the points that I had on the guarantees. I just wanted to put a little finer point on it, though. I want to make sure that when we are faced with that condition precedent of approving the host city contract, that I hope that that will be a part of this discussion as we go forward, and not one of those situations where we are confronted with a completed, negotiated contract and told that we accept this and we can compete for the Olympics. If we make any changes in it, we cannot compete for the Olympics. That won't be an acceptable situation for me. So I had some concerns about the guarantees. They're resolved because they are conditional, but that condition needs to be thoroughly vetted and discussed by this council, and not given to us as a take it or leave it situation, because that I will leave it if it's that case. So I just want to say that that's really important. I think that is the most critical element of the council's entire role in this process, is understanding the risks that are involved in the host city contract, the financial risks, in my view. Yeah. So everything else, I sleep well at night thinking about this, because I think it's a terrific bid. I think we are going to win this. I think we have the best bid to offer the IOC, but it's going to be imperative that the financial risk to the city is close to zero.
If I may make one comment, first of all, I very much appreciate your thoughts, and that we will take that to heart in the way that we interact with all of you. Furthermore, I would want to make sure I'm clear with what we think and how we believe the guarantee operates. It's not, we don't think of it as really a financial guarantee. Remember, the IOC, if they award the games to LA, we have complete control over the budget. They have no control over the budget. The guarantee is simply a guarantee that says we will host the games. We're prepared to stage the games, and if we need to change the budget or do something different in order to do it in a way that is consistent with our capacity, that we have the full opportunity to do that in a way that we see fit. So I think it will be very important for the city and for our group, our bid committee, to both be very clear with that with the IOC, but to understand ourselves what obligations and commitments we take on in the guarantee. And as I say, if we start with an orientation that has fiscal discipline and no risk as its most important objective, hopefully this will not be controversial. In fact, it will be something that turns out to be a real strength of our bid.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Bloomingfield.
Right, I think
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
So wanted to answer, and I had
Yeah,
one
just-
other.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing with regard to LA24. I think they listened to the comments of the council very carefully, and they really took into consideration what the council stated, and that is to eliminate as much financial risk as possible. I think what you have before you with the selection of UCLA and USC is really demonstrates that they took that into consideration. And as we go through this process, Mr. Kokorian, LA24 is also committed as part of the MOU to fund the hiring by CAO and CLA an independent economic analysis of the Olympic process and the everything that the economic impact and analysis of the Olympics. And so we expect to be going through that process right now, and we expect to have those results presented to you in advance of that stage 2 deliverable.
Great. Thank you. And if I may, Mr. President, just one other small, very small point, and it's not really timely yet, but Mr. Sykes, because you signaled it, I just want to put on our radar that when it comes to specific venue selection, and some of us will have some concerns about how the Sepulveda Basin will be utilized. And I think there's a long history, as we've discussed before, of Olympic proposals for the Sepulveda Basin going way back before the 1984 games. And I think for many of our constituents here in the Valley, that will be a high concern. And we'll have to figure out ways that we can address the needs of the community in utilizing the Sepulveda Basin and Hanson Dam recreation area and some of the other Valley facilities that I'm very much hoping will be a part of the Olympic picture for 2024, but we'll have to do it in a way that is respectful to the concerns of those communities as well.
Mr. Blumenthal.
Thank you. I want to echo a lot of the concerns I've heard. I also want to echo something Mr. O'Farrell said at the beginning, which was thanking Mr. Nabors for coming. It's exciting to see you here. Like you, I was in Montreal in 1976 at the Olympics. I was at the swimming event, a couple of them. But the difference is you were in the water. I was a 9-year-old kid in the audience with my parents who took me there and cheering you on. So it's exciting to see you here. The guarantee is obviously a big issue for all of us.
We know you're young, Bob. We know you're young. Yeah, we know you're young. Continue.
All right. This was 76, a couple of years ago. So the guarantee, I was a little concerned at first about the guarantee in terms of the conditional issue being that we sign it now and then we're locked into a 0-1 afterwards. But I'm hearing that that's not the case, and that what we're locking into now, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, even though the council is not signing off on it, it's just the mayor and the council president, is sort of these big picture goals of performance, cooperation. There's no actual financials that we're signing off on. I mean, conditionally signing off on at the moment, or is it's all generic in that sense?
Well, it's not exactly generic. The three guarantees are, first, to respect the Olympic Charter, which I can't imagine anyone would have a problem with. The second is to take all necessary steps to complete the host city agreement, but again, that is subject to city council approval first, and we'll work with Mr. Kokorian's concerns are understood by us, and we can work with you along the way. The third guarantee has to do with the city's obligations with respect to sponsorship and marketing programs, which we included in the host city contract. Again, those specific provisions will only be implemented if, in fact, the city council votes to approve them. I hope that
and it's, since the host city contract hasn't been written yet, it's all contingent on how we write it. So
that's
we're
correct.
agreeing to carry out something that we haven't written yet, that we have to sign off on.
Yes, but you're only obligated to perform the contract if you sign the contract. And it is being negotiated. Mr. Nelson from LA24 and Mr. Kreinberg from our office have been spending a lot of time on this, and they're meeting weekly. Actually, our entire group is meeting weekly with LA24. So we're really in tandem here, but we will not commit. Obviously, the city is not going to commit to anything until this council approves it.
Right, and as reiterating that we want to actually be part of that before we get the 0-1 question to us.
I think we've received that message.
Yeah, I got you.
If I could add to that, I think the important thing to understand is that, aligned with what Mr. Kokorian said, we're not going to wait till the very end and submit one package to you, and that's why our close relationship and working with LA24 is so important, and presenting to your committee and to the full council elements of what ultimately will be the host city contract piece by piece. And so by the time the host city contract is presented to you, there should be few surprises because elements of it will already been submitted for your consideration prior to that, including the budget.
Great, thank you. A question on the Olympic Villages. Trying to visualize how it was working. In '84, I remember being actually able to walk at UCLA around the Olympic Village to some extent. I don't. It was a little fuzzy. I was also young back then in '84 at those Olympics, although much older. But how is that going to work in today's day and age with security? Are they going to, wall off the whole campus? Is it going to be some portion? What happens with the students that would be there normally during the summer? Are we displacing the entire student body for 2 weeks, or not, or for 4 weeks? How long do we envision the village, being the village, and what happens with the displacement of students, and what's the access, and is it the entire campus or a portion of it?
So we've worked very closely with the housing team at UCLA, who've been marvelous, honestly. And UCLA has gone out of their way to tell us they want to host the Olympic Athletes Village. They made that point in the first meeting we had, the first visit we had, and then every visit, every interaction we've had since then has been tremendous. They're very, very determined to do this. The campus will not be walled off, but there will be a secure perimeter around the Olympic Athletes Village, which would really constitute the residential dormitories where they currently have undergraduates, as well as the residential apartments where they have graduate students on the west side of the UCLA campus. The campus will not be walled off. The hospitals and medical facilities will operate as normal. The rest of the campus will be open as it always is. In fact, we intend to have events staged on the campus, and so those events would also accommodate spectators and athletes and so forth. There will be some of the training facilities, the Drake Stadium, for example, which will be within the perimeter of the Olympic Athletes Village based on our current plans. But not all of UCLA will be walled off. And as far as schedule, again, this has been managed with UCLA. This will, I suppose, cause them with some planning in advance, since we have 8 years to run before this happens, to know what the limit of their capacity will be during the summer of 2024. We will need the Olympic Athletes Village to be available for both Olympians and then for Paralympians. So the sort of residential period will stretch 4 weeks, roughly, 17 days for the Olympics and 10 days for the interim between the two, and then 10 days for the Paralympics, so 4 or 5 weeks for the actual residents, and then a period of time to prepare and a period of time to, if you will, put UCLA back in a position where students can come. We believe that the interruption to their academic year schedule will be minimal, if anything, and that is something that we've talked very specifically with them about. But I would underscore that the best part of this is they'll have 8 years to plan this, sure. And so they will, whatever adjustments they make in their schedule will be relatively modest and well anticipated.
Mr. Saddia.
Mr. Sykes, thank you for your leadership in making the commitment to see us through this incredible opportunity. I cannot tell you how excited I am about the prospects of bringing the Olympics to Los Angeles. Very excited about the UCLA development. I'm a Bruin, not a secret to anybody. And just really, really pleased that we are able to move forward. Mr. Nabor, thank you for your leadership. What an exciting summer it was to watch you, you and Sugar Ray Leonard and all the great stars of 76. I think I've seen every Olympics in 64, and it's just the eyes of the world fall on one city, and the world comes together. The Olympic movement, I had the opportunity this summer while I was in Switzerland to visit the museum, and it is an inspiration, as you indicated, not just for Olympians, though, but for all people to really challenge themselves to bring together spirit, mind, and body. And it's a new phenomenon in the history of man and in the world. And so for us to have an opportunity to be part of that, to be central to that, to be the host, is a real opportunity that I think this discussion is very important about the details. I'm not suggesting that we don't focus on them, but there's a synergy, there's something greater, something bigger that all of us will benefit from. And so just thank you for your leadership on this opportunity.
Any more questions, Mr. Blumenfield?
One quick one. Is there a point where we get feedback on the on our stage 1 bid, that they tell us sort of how we're doing or anything like that?
We have a workshop in Lausanne. All of the cities come for a workshop, and again, we'll go first. And so, to a degree, in that workshop, we could receive some direct feedback if we create questions for them in the material that we give them in our first stage deliverable. So we expect that to happen. I believe it's in April.
But it's not like they say at that point, oh, well, you're the leading contender if you keep it up or anything like that.
No, we don't expect that. We're not sure that they'll give us cues. And remember that the IOC staff, which conducts this process, is trying to conduct a process in which all of the cities work with the same parameters, with the same direction, and present roughly the same types of information so that they can put the information in front of the voting members. Predicting the behavior of the voting members is, I think, an impossible task, but we'll do the best we can as we get close to the vote.
Okay, I want to thank Mr. Nabors for coming out today, and I want to just mention all of the Olympians. You know, once an Olympian, always an Olympian, and I want to thank all of them for their support. I think we have over 1,000 that live within the LA region, and we've gotten such support from all of them. Every time that there's an event or a conversation or a discussion, we're always represented by individuals from the actual Olympic athletic team. But in ways, members, we're the LA's Olympic team now, because we're in competition with other cities throughout this world. And it's important that we do the very best that we can in order for us to have an opportunity to succeed. And I do believe what's occurring is you're seeing this partnership form. You're seeing this team come together with the work of Gene and your team at LA 24, with our city staff who's gone above and beyond, with our Olympians, with our elected officials and what have you. And even though, members, our names, we're not going to do a victory lap, and our names may not be up on the scoreboard, I think this is where we participate. And at the end of the day, if we are successful, to know that we worked very hard to bring these games to Los Angeles. Individuals will at least recognize that we tried the very best that we could. And like Mr. Krikorian, I am optimistic as well. So with that said, Madam Clerk, I think what I would do is I would recommend that we approve the CAO and the CLA's report. So without objection, that will be the order. Is there any more business before this committee? Then this committee is adjourned, and again, thank all of you so very much.
Thank you very much.